Germany's entry into the medieval period was characterized by a slow transformation from diverse tribal communities into more organized political structures. Throughout this era, ancient Germanic traditions began to blend with influences from neighboring cultures, particularly the remnants of Roman society. As tribal systems evolved, initial governance frameworks emerged, setting the stage for the development of feudalism. Additionally, this time witnessed the rise of unique regional identities, the founding of early urban centers, and the establishment of trade networks that would become vital in the medieval era. Starting in the 2nd century CE, various Germanic tribes had established themselves along the Rhine and Danube rivers, marking the Roman frontier and covering much of what is now modern Germany. This Roman-Germanic boundary, known as the Limes Germanicus, became a hub of cultural interaction, as the Germanic tribes engaged in trade for Roman goods and integrated aspects of Roman culture into their own. Roman military towns like Moguntiacum, Augusta Treverorum, and Augusta Vindelicorum emerged in these pacified regions, promoting further cultural assimilation and laying the groundwork for the vibrant urban life that would characterize Germany in the Middle Ages. However, as the power of Rome began to wane in the late 300s and troops were withdrawn from the borders, Germanic groups started to raid the Roman provinces along the frontier. Some tribes even crossed into Roman lands, settling there in exchange for military service and land grants. Following the defeat of the Roman army by the Goths in Thracia in the year 378, which resulted in the death of Emperor Valens, his successor Theodosius was compelled to negotiate with the invaders. He offered them substantial land concessions to prevent further attacks and to create a buffer against other Germanic incursions. By the 5th century, the Roman Empire's central authority was in decline, leading to the influx of several formidable Germanic tribes. These tribes, driven by rising populations and the relentless assaults of the Huns, who were nomadic invaders from Central Asia, began to invade the heart of the former Roman territories. The Visigoths, fleeing the Huns' advance across the Danube, entered Greece and under the leadership of the ambitious Alaric, famously sacked Rome in 410 before eventually settling in Spain. Similarly, the Vandals crossed the Rhine in 406, plundering Gaul before heading into Spain and ultimately seizing North Africa. Amidst this turmoil, Germanic chieftains established new homelands for their tribes, dismantling the remnants of the imperial administration and imposing their rule over the local Roman populace. These warrior kings also engaged in conflicts with one another, absorbing defeated tribes as they strengthened their control over their newly acquired realms. During this tumultuous era, Aryan Christianity began to gain traction among the Germanic invaders. This sect, who rejected the divinity of Christ and was deemed heretical by the Church of Rome at the Council of Nicaea in 325, found a foothold among the Germanic tribes as they surged into the disintegrating empire. For centuries, historians have depicted these tribes as ruthless invaders responsible for the fall of Rome's illustrious civilization. However, contemporary research has shifted this perspective. Nowadays, most scholars interpret the Germanic migrations of the late 5th century not as a catalyst for the political downfall of Rome, but rather as a reaction to it. Consequently, there is a growing recognition that the Germanic groups migrating into the Roman realm during this chaotic era were integrated into the weakening empire to help protect provinces that imperial authorities could no longer manage effectively. The Germanic peoples had a long history of serving in the Roman military, and in the empire's final days, entire tribes defended the Roman borders under their own leaders. As centralized Roman authority began to disintegrate, these defensive roles gradually evolved into administrative responsibilities and eventually full governance, with Roman power shifting into the hands of Germanic chieftains. By the 6th century CE, the Roman Empire had evolved into a mosaic of Germanic kingdoms, where Christianized Germanic tribes flourished and gradually merged with the Roman populace they governed. In Italy, the epicenter of the ancient Roman realm, Theodoric the Great, the leader of the Ostrogoths, presided over a diverse kingdom composed of both the descendants of former Roman citizens and Germanic warriors. Meanwhile, to the north of the Alps, a Germanic tribe called the Franks established their own kingdom on the remnants of the former Roman province of Gaul, setting the stage for the future of Germany and significantly influencing the trajectory of European history. In the tumultuous period of the late 400s CE, the Franks emerged, led by a dynasty established by the formidable war leader Clovis. This tribe successfully conquered the ancient Roman province of Gaul. Clovis achieved a significant victory over Syagrius, the last Roman authority in northern Gaul, at the Battle of Soissons in 486 CE, effectively claiming the territory for himself. With this triumph, Clovis found himself at the helm of a vast kingdom inhabited by Romans, Romanized Gauls, and Germanic Franks. It was at this pivotal moment that he made a crucial decision that would profoundly influence the future of Germany. Following a hard-fought victory against the Alemanni, Clovis embraced Roman Catholicism, influenced by his wife Clotilda, a Burgundian princess and a devout follower of the Latin faith. The renowned account of Clovis's baptism in Reims in 496 is documented in the Chronicle of St. Denis. This chronicle portrays the Frankish king's shift from idolatry as a miraculous event, attributed to divine intervention aimed at encouraging his subjects to adopt Christianity. Although this narrative, penned by a devout Catholic monk, implies that Clovis was swayed by divine inspiration and the faith of his devoted wife, it is likely that he had more pragmatic reasons as well. By converting to Latin Christianity and compelling his Frankish subjects to renounce their pagan beliefs, Clovis effectively unified Romans and Germans under his rule. This strategic move provided the Frankish kingdom with a sense of unity and strength, a quality that was notably absent in other Germanic realms, where the Roman populace viewed their pagan or heretical Aryan Christian rulers as alien oppressors. Clovis emerged as a powerful advocate for the Catholic faith. Through a series of victorious military campaigns, he systematically conquered nearby Germanic tribes, such as the Thuringians, who lived in central Germany close to the Harz Mountains, and the aforementioned Alemanni, whose territory bordered Lake Constance in southern Germany and Switzerland. This paved the way for their eventual conversion to Christianity. Clovis established a dynasty called the Merovingians, named after their legendary ancestor, Merovech. Throughout the 5th and 6th centuries, the Merovingian rulers expanded their influence by defeating various Germanic tribes, gradually integrating these groups into an expanding Frankish realm that extended across Central Europe. As fervent supporters of Latin Christianity, the Merovingians urged the conquered Germanic tribes, many of whom still adhered to pagan or unorthodox beliefs, to embrace the Roman Catholic faith. The triumph over the Alemanni in 496 is a notable example, transforming their territory in southwestern Germany into a duchy within their burgeoning empire and a stronghold of Catholic devotion. After Clovis died in 511, his realm was divided among his 4 sons, Theuderic I, Clodomir, Childebert I, and Chlodar I. Chlodar eventually took over the other 3 kingdoms after his brothers died. During his reign, the Franks dominated much of what is now Germany and began to invade the lands of the Saxons, a pagan Germanic tribe located in northern Germany near present-day Holstein. This protracted conflict and tension between the Franks and the Saxons would last for centuries. A new artistic style emerged during this era known as Merovingian art. This style was marked by a unique fusion of Roman classical elements and the native artistic traditions of the Germanic Frankish people, emphasizing abstraction and geometric designs. By the late 5th century, the Germanic influence became increasingly prominent. Artists seldom focused on the human figure. Instead, they prioritized intricate surface designs, creating a rich, decorative language. Imaginative animal motifs were prevalent, with letters sometimes crafted from fish and birds. While the artistic achievements of the Merovingians may seem modest in comparison to other periods, their work represented a distinctive and dynamic blend of barbarian and Mediterranean influences, leaving a lasting impact even after the Merovingian dynasty came to an end. Throughout the coming years and decades, the Merovingians expanded their kingdom in Central Europe, engaging in ongoing military campaigns against various Germanic tribes. These efforts were spearheaded by influential officials known as mayors of the palace, who not only led the conquests but also gradually built their own significant military and political power. In the 700s CE, this role transitioned into a hereditary title held by a dynasty initiated by the skilled military leader Charles Martel. He launched campaigns against the Saxons and engaged Muslim forces in the Pyrenees, all in the name of the Merovingians. He is best known for his decisive victory against the Muslim forces at the Battle of Tours in 732. This landmark confrontation not only halted the Muslim advance into Western Europe, but also marked a significant turning point in the region's historical relationship with Islam. Some view this triumph as instrumental in safeguarding Christianity's presence across Europe. In 751, his son Pepin III, known as Pepin the Short, who was serving as mayor of the palace under the Merovingians, seized the Frankish throne with the approval of Pope Zacharias. This audacious act marked the beginning of the Carolingian dynasty and created a mutually beneficial alliance between these rulers and the papacy, where the new Frankish kings provided protection to the church in return for its endorsement. The eldest son of Pepin, Charlemagne, proclaimed himself the heir to the fabled Roman emperors. As the most prominent of the Carolingian leaders, he established a vast Germanic empire that spanned much of Europe. His realm was a unique fusion of Roman governance, Christian faith, and Germanic military structure, which set the stage for the development of medieval Europe and shaped German society. A fervent Christian, Charlemagne took up the Franks' campaign against the pagan tribes at the fringes of his extensive empire, including the Slavs, Avars, and the Saxons, who had persistently resisted conversion to Christianity. Einhard, Charlemagne's trusted advisor and confidant, penned a respectful biography titled The Life of Charlemagne, which chronicles the Carolingian leaders' intense battles against the Saxons. He describes the Saxons as a fierce people, steeped in devil worship and antagonistic to our faith, highlighting Charlemagne's relentless 30-year campaign against this pagan Germanic tribe. In 804, Charlemagne finally subdued the Saxons, mandating their forced conversion to Christianity and the dismantling of their pagan shrines. The Saxon territory was integrated into Charlemagne's empire and reduced to a tributary state. Throughout his extensive reign, Charlemagne successfully conquered all West Germanic tribes, including the Saxons and the Bajuwari, who would later be known as Bavarians, thereby uniting the Germanic peoples under Carolingian rule. Starting in the 770s, he also expanded the Carolingian Empire into northern Italy, freeing the papacy from the Lombards, who had occupied the area. Charlemagne further supported the papacy in 799 by marching to Rome to reinstate Pope Leo III after a revolt. Charlemagne's support for the Roman Catholic Church was rewarded with a significant affirmation of his imperial power in Western Europe when Pope Leo crowned him emperor in Rome. This momentous occasion, which occurred on Christmas Day in 800 CE, has long been regarded by historians as the inception of the Holy Roman Empire, a powerful entity that would influence Germany for 1,000 years. However, more recent scholarship has begun to challenge this traditional perspective, emphasizing the differences between Charlemagne's realm and the later medieval Holy Roman Empire. Despite this evolving interpretation, the importance of Charlemagne's partnership with the papacy and the impact of his reign on the development of medieval Europe remains widely acknowledged. Charlemagne governed his expansive empire by designating regional leaders, called counts, to oversee various areas of the Frankish kingdom. He set up tributary marches to protect the remote borders and tasked imperial officials with traveling across the realm to implement royal orders. In doing so, he effectively subdued the tribal dukes by assigning royal officials to non-hereditary roles that countered the influence of these tribal war leaders. Additionally, monks and priests acted as royal officials, as literacy during this era was predominantly found within the church. Charlemagne's reign was marked by constant movement, whether he was engaged in battles or presiding over his royal court at various imperial locations, with Aachen being the most significant. This city evolved into a hub of Latin Christian learning and culture. Following Charlemagne's passing in 814, the Frankish kingdom was engulfed in a series of devastating conflicts among his heirs, leading to the eventual disintegration of the Carolingian Empire. The Franks followed a system of partible inheritance, which meant that all surviving heirs received a share of the family estate. In 806, the elderly Charlemagne ordered that his 3 sons would each inherit a portion of the empire upon his death. Ultimately, only one son, Louis the Pious, survived him and ascended to the throne as emperor in 814. Louis's rule was significantly impacted by a civil war involving his sons, Charles the Bald, Louis the German, and Lothair. This internal conflict was ultimately resolved with the signing of the Treaty of Verdun in 843, which divided the empire. Charles the Bald was allocated the western segment of the Carolingian kingdom, roughly corresponding to present-day France and Belgium. Lothair, who also held the imperial title, received the central area known as Lotharingia or Lorraine, stretching from the North Sea down to central Italy. Meanwhile, Louis the German took control of the eastern territory, encompassing all Carolingian lands east of the Rhine and extending into northern and eastern Italy, referred to as East Francia. In 870, following a short period of instability, Charles the Bald and Louis the German divided Lotharingia between them. A decade later, after Charles's death, the rulers of East Francia seized Lotharingia, integrating it into their domain as a duchy. For the next millennium, the regions that would evolve into modern France and Germany would fiercely contest the territory of Lorraine. In contrast to the western part of the former Carolingian Empire, where a Latin-based language that evolved into modern French was prevalent, the people of East Francia communicated in a Germanic tongue that eventually transformed into modern German. Throughout the Middle Ages, the lineage of Louis the German ascended to the imperial throne, claiming the legacy of Charlemagne. The German-speaking coalition they led, recognized as the Holy Roman Empire and situated in Central Europe, laid the groundwork for German identity in the years that followed. As the Carolingian Empire fragmented, its successor states faced significant challenges in safeguarding their borders. As mentioned previously, the Treaty of Verdun established a new German-speaking realm in Central Europe called East Francia, which included several stem duchies such as Saxony, Franconia, Bavaria, and Swabia, all rooted in the ancient tribal territories of Germanic warriors. East Francia soon found itself besieged by invaders from various fronts, Viking raiders from the north and Magyar horsemen from the east. By 911, as instability grew, the eastern line of the Carolingians came to an end, prompting the East Frankish dukes to select a series of ineffective leaders from the prominent families of the region. In a twist of fate, they turned to the Saxons, who had been the pagan adversaries of the Carolingian emperor just a century earlier. After being forcibly converted to Christianity by Charlemagne, the House of Saxony had gained considerable power within the Frankish Empire. In 919, the dukes chose Henry I as king of the Germans, marking the beginning of the Ottonian dynasty, which would play a pivotal role in shaping medieval German history. Henry adeptly navigated external threats by securing the allegiance of powerful nobles from Bavaria, Franconia, Lotharingia, Saxony, and Swabia through feudal connections, all while allowing them to retain their tribal governance. With his authority firmly established, he seized the opportunity to showcase his might and test these feudal alliances in battle. In 933, he gathered an army made up of various Germanic tribes from East Francia and marched against the Magyars, the nomadic raiders from the east. Henry achieved a decisive victory over them, effectively stopping their incursions into German lands, and also initiated campaigns against the Danes in Frisia. These successes significantly strengthened his standing among the German nobility. While in power, Henry allowed the powerful dukes of the 5 tribal stem duchies, Bavaria, Franconia, Lotharingia, Saxony, and Swabia, to exercise a certain level of independence. This choice set the stage for the decentralized political structure that would later define the Holy Roman Empire. Henry's life was cut short in 936, but despite his short reign, his willingness to collaborate with the dukes and his military successes paved the way for his son, Otto, to be elected as King of the Germans in Aachen. Otto proved himself to be a formidable leader, stepping into the legacy of Charlemagne. He swiftly set about establishing a robust kingdom in Central Europe. His military acumen was evident when he triumphed over the feared Magyar cavalry at Lechfeld in 955, and expanded his territory by conquering the Slavic tribes along the Elbe River. After a series of successful military confrontations in the east, Otto forced the vanquished pagan leaders to convert, appointing bishops to facilitate the religious transformation of their communities, thus gradually incorporating the Slavs, Bohemians, and Danes into the Roman Catholic Church. Additionally, Otto showcased his political savvy by skillfully managing the proud nobility of Germany and appointing influential bishops as his reliable royal administrators. In 962, the Pope in Rome bestowed the title of Holy Roman Emperor upon Otto the Great. The imperial throne had remained unoccupied for many years, and his coronation significantly elevated the status and reverence of the German monarchy by recalling the legacy of Charlemagne and revitalizing the ancient Frankish alliance with the papacy. Otto initiated a millennium-long tradition of German leaders bearing the imperial title, a connection that would play a crucial role in shaping German identity in the future. The Holy Roman Empire covered what is now Germany, bringing together the leaders of various Germanic tribes such as the Eastern Franks, Alemanni, Bajuwari, Saxons, and Thuringians under the emperor's authority, laying the groundwork for modern Germany. Starting around the year 950 during Otto's reign, a new form of cultural and artistic revival took place throughout most of the Holy Roman Empire, called the Ottonian Renaissance. The era was marked by a revival in artistic expression, architectural innovation, and intellectual pursuits, drawing significant inspiration from the Carolingian Renaissance and early Christian artistic traditions. Ottonian art was characterized by its remarkable attention to detail. This is particularly evident in their metalwork and sculpture, where even the tiniest pieces, such as jewelry, showcase intricate designs. Additionally, Ottonian artwork is known for its emotional depth, vibrant colors, and the seamless blending of political and religious themes. In architecture, this period saw the refinement and expansion of Carolingian designs, with standout examples such as the Church of St. Michael in Hildesheim, showcasing the orderly and systematic nature of Ottonian architectural principles. This foundational period ended around the year 1024 and set the stage for the subsequent Romanesque style. It is important to understand that although Otto aimed for imperial power and sought to increase his influence over the stem duchies, East Francia did not operate as a unified Germany during this period. Rather, Otto's realm comprised various Germanic tribes mentioned earlier, with each governed by leaders who upheld their own feudal allegiances to Otto. In 973, Otto passed away, but by that time he had adeptly brought these distinct groups together under a stable royal rule through clever tactics and unwavering resolve. However, after Otto the Great's death, the internal rifts within Germany re-emerged, resulting in his Ottonian successors confronting multiple rebellions from their own nobles and attacks from external adversaries. The Ottonian dynasty, which had a significant impact on the region for 100 years, came to an end in 1024 with the passing of the capable but childless Henry II. This left a power vacuum in the empire. Following some negotiations, tribal leaders chose Conrad II from Franconia as the new Holy Roman Emperor, marking the beginning of the Salian dynasty. The Salians maintained their hold on the empire for a century, until 1125, during which 4 emperors worked diligently to elevate the Holy Roman Empire to a position of prominence in Europe. They achieved this by adopting many of the effective strategies established by the Ottonians, enhancing centralized imperial administration, and quelling rebellious dukes. Like their predecessors, the Carolingians and Ottonians, the Salians also depended on their alliance with the papacy to strengthen their authority and influence. Conrad II, the inaugural Salian emperor, received his crown from Pope John XIX during a ceremony at St. Peter's Basilica on Easter in 1027. This event followed a victorious campaign in Italy that solidified the papacy's loyalty. However, by 1075, this alliance began to unravel due to disputes over the appointment of bishops, leading to a monumental conflict between the emperor and the pope for dominance in the German territories. The Ottonian kings, serving as Holy Roman emperors, held the nominal title of leaders of Christendom. In their role as guardians of the church, they had maintained significant influence over religious matters for quite some time. However, a dynamic reform movement emerging among the clergy in the 11th century aimed to liberate the church from worldly control. During the Investiture controversy, the determined Pope Gregory VII insisted that the Salian Emperor Henry IV relinquish his authority to appoint bishops. Consequently, Gregory proclaimed a decree that prohibited church officials from accepting ecclesiastical positions granted by secular leaders. The appointment of bishops played a vital role in the exercise of imperial authority, as these figures were not only spiritual leaders, but also significant landowners and key administrators within the empire. In light of this, Henry IV was swift to assert his long-standing right to appoint bishops, responding to Pope Gregory in a stern letter in January 1076 that portrayed the Pope as a power-hungry usurper. Unsurprisingly, this patronizing correspondence did not sit well with Gregory, and as tensions mounted, he excommunicated Henry, instructing church officials and feudal lords to disregard the emperor's commands. This bold action incited a rebellion among the German nobility, who were eager to liberate themselves from imperial dominance. In an effort to resolve the crisis, Henry made his way to the Italian Alps in 1077, where he spent several days kneeling in the snow, hoping for the Pope's audience. His display of humility compelled the Pope to grant him forgiveness, yet Henry wasted no time in resuming the appointment of bishops and even orchestrated the election of a rival pope to oppose Gregory. Henry IV's conflict with the Pope ignited a protracted and violent rebellion within the empire, which continued until a temporary resolution was achieved through the Concordat of Worms in 1122. This pact allowed the Pope to appoint bishops while still granting the emperor the power to veto those appointments. Although these religious compromises were significant, the investiture controversy also had lasting political ramifications. The struggle contributed to the feudal fragmentation in Germany and diminished the emperor's direct authority over the empire. The escalating friction between central and regional leaders, as well as the tension between imperial centralization and local autonomy, would shape the political landscape of the Holy Roman Empire right up until its dissolution in 1806. During the 11th and 12th centuries, while intense religious and political debates unfolded among the elite of medieval society, the everyday lives of common people in the German territories were being transformed in major ways. One of the most striking changes was the swift urbanization driven largely by the economic boost from long-distance trade, revitalized by the Crusades. Towns, often established through charters granted by the emperor or local nobles and bishops, gradually secured municipal rights, evolving into bastions of republican freedom amidst a landscape dominated by feudal serfdom, and earning the designation of free cities that owed their loyalty solely to the emperor. Wealthy merchants and skilled artisans formed associations called guilds, which held significant power over towns and regional markets, transforming them into hubs of economic growth and intellectual exchange. During the High Middle Ages, long-distance trade flourished both over land and sea, leading to the establishment of the Hanseatic League, a formidable alliance of cities that came to control trade in northern Germany and the surrounding Baltic and North Seas. Additionally, this period marked the expansion of German settlements into Slavic territories east of the Elbe, including Bohemia, Silesia, Pomerania, and Livonia, known as Ostsiedlung. This migration wave would later have dire repercussions in the 20th century. In 1125, the Salian dynasty came to an end, much like the Ottonians before them. However, this time, the transition of imperial power was anything but peaceful. Intense disputes over the election sparked prolonged conflicts among competing claimants. Ultimately, in 1152, Frederick I of Swabia emerged as the victor, establishing a new dynasty known as the Hohenstaufen. Frederick, famously called Frederick Barbarossa due to his distinctive reddish beard, ruled from 1152 until 1190, dedicating his lengthy reign to the restoration of the imperial crown's authority. The influence of the German emperors had significantly waned since the era of Otto the Great, reducing the imperial title to little more than a ceremonial formality. The German princes within the empire governed their lands with the authority of kings, leaving the emperors without essential support and funds, which forced them to depend on their own hereditary estates for income. To address this troubling predicament, Frederick Barbarossa sought to strengthen his influence in Italy, aiming to tap into the wealth of the northern Italian cities to fund his initiatives in Germany. Throughout his reign, Frederick I launched 6 military campaigns across the Alps. During the first of these in 1155, Pope Adrian IV honored Frederick for his role in suppressing a rebellion in Rome by personally crowning him as Holy Roman Emperor. However, Frederick's Italian endeavors were not his only preoccupation. He was also drawn away from the German situation by the enticing call of the Crusades. Keen on reclaiming territory lost to the Christian Crusaders, the Kurdish leader Saladin commanded an Islamic army that successfully captured Jerusalem in 1187. During the Diet of Mainz, a gathering of the Holy Roman Empire's Estates General in 1188, Frederick made a solemn pledge to take up the Crusaders' cross, which he fulfilled the following year. In 1189, Frederick Barbarossa allied with French King Philip Augustus and English King Richard the Lionheart for the Third Crusade, often referred to as the King's Crusade, aiming to reclaim the Holy City. Tragically, on June 10, 1190, while campaigning near Antioch, one of the Crusader states established during the First Crusade, encompassing parts of present-day Turkey and Syria, Frederick drowned in the Salif River, swept away by the strong current as he attempted to cross on horseback. After the death of Emperor Barbarossa, his son Frederick VI of Swabia briefly assumed command, but the spirit of the German army had vanished. The troops were deeply affected by their leader's passing, and in the days that followed, thousands of soldiers chose to abandon the campaign and return home. Despite the whimsical nature of his reign and the disastrous outcome of his last campaign, Frederick Barbarossa's legend endured in Germany for centuries after his passing. One of the most famous tales suggests that the Hohenstaufen emperor is not truly dead, but lies in slumber beneath Kyffhauser Mountain in Thuringia, poised to awaken and restore Germany to its former glory in its time of greatest need. Despite these captivating stories, the noble yet ill-fated Frederick Barbarossa was laid to rest in the Holy Land, leaving the challenges of imperial governance in Germany to his son, Henry VI. Following in his father's footsteps, Henry soon found himself caught up in a series of unproductive campaigns in Italy. Once again, the German princes seized the opportunity presented by their absent emperor to strengthen their own power within their territories. After Henry's death, a tumultuous period of dynastic uncertainty ensued until another Hohenstaufen emperor, Frederick II, succeeded in re-establishing imperial authority. Frederick II, much like his predecessors Frederick Barbarossa and Henry VI, dedicated a significant portion of his reign to military campaigns in Italy, engaging in expensive conflicts against the Pope and his Italian allies. Once again, a Hohenstaufen emperor found himself compelled to appease the fractious German princes with various concessions to prevent rebellion during his Italian endeavors, essentially trading power for stability. To secure their loyalty, Frederick II granted the German magnates near-complete autonomy over their regions. Following the death of his son, Conrad IV, the most influential German dukes chose several contenders for the imperial crown, ushering in a tumultuous era known as the Great Interregnum, which spanned from 1256 to 1273. In the absence of a strong central authority, the empire experienced a surge in centrifugal forces as the German princes tightened their grip on their territories, further diminishing the emperor's power. In terms of architectural styles, major changes were taking place across the European continent. The Gothic style, known for its impressive heights, detailed stonework, and vibrant stained glass windows, originated in 12th century France. Gothic introduced groundbreaking elements such as pointed arches, ribbed vaults, and flying buttresses, enabling the construction of taller and more elegant buildings. These innovations revolutionized church architecture, marking the beginning of a new era filled with light and grandeur. By the 13th century, Gothic architecture had rapidly spread throughout Europe, making its way to Germany. Here, it evolved to reflect local materials and cultural influences. A significant aspect of German Gothic architecture is the prominent use of brick, especially in northern areas where stone was less available. This led to the emergence of brick Gothic, a style noted for its warm reddish-brown tones and elaborate brick patterns. Iconic examples of brick Gothic churches include St. Mary's Church in Lübeck and St. Nicholas's Church in Stralsund, celebrated for their sturdy construction and unique aesthetic. Another distinctive feature of German Gothic architecture is the rise of hall churches. Unlike conventional churches with elevated choirs and transepts, hall churches boast a cohesive interior with aisles of equal height. This design fosters a more expansive and inviting environment, accommodating larger congregations and enhancing community spirit. Notable examples of hall churches are St. Elizabeth's Church in Marburg and St. Catherine's Church in Hamburg. These adaptations highlight the flexibility and lasting charm of German Gothic architecture, which continues to inspire and enchant people even centuries later. In 1312, Henry VII of Luxembourg was elected as the Holy Roman Emperor, marking the first uncontested election since Frederick II's death in 1250. In his short-lived career, he breathed new life into the imperial cause in Italy, a land torn apart by fierce conflicts between competing imperial and religious groups. Tragically, his untimely passing in 1313 shattered the legacy he had worked so hard to build. His successors, particularly Charles IV, aimed to re-establish imperial power, but faced significant challenges, including the envy of the German territorial princes and the onset of a devastating crisis across Europe. The Black Death, a catastrophic outbreak of bubonic plague that would ultimately take the lives of a third of Europe's population, emerged in Italy in 1347 and reached Germany by 1350. In response to the perceived divine punishment, a radical group of penitents known as the Flagellants began to roam the empire, inflicting pain upon themselves as a form of atonement. The intense zeal of this sect incited violent attacks against Jewish populations. In numerous medieval German cities, small Jewish communities existed as marginalized groups within ghettos, allowed to settle there by local authorities or bishops who profited from their financial contributions and medical skills. Even with this elite protection, Jews in medieval Germany faced a fragile existence, surrounded by the animosity of the general populace, who were fueled by religious intolerance, ethnic animus, and economic envy. As the Flagellants spread fear across the empire, this marginalized religious group was wrongfully accused of causing the plague by contaminating Christian wells. Despite the clear reality that Jews were also victims of the epidemic, these baseless fears led to massacres and the devastation of numerous Jewish communities in the Rhineland during the plague years. The emergence of the Flagellants, who claimed that the plague was divine retribution for the corruption of the clergy and the materialism of the Vatican, incited fear among the populace, leading them to question both religious and secular authorities. Although the papacy swiftly denounced the Flagellants as heretics, the Church's response was hindered by a growing crisis within its own ranks. During the period known as the Babylonian captivity, the Catholic Church became heavily influenced by the French monarchy, as the papacy relocated to Avignon in southern France, rather than remaining in Rome. Lacking strong ecclesiastical leadership and seemingly powerless against the Black Death, an enigmatic force perceived as a manifestation of divine anger, the Church experienced a decline in both its authority and reputation. Following the turmoil and strife brought on by the Black Death, a wave of reform efforts emerged within the Holy Roman Empire aimed at establishing a more orderly process for imperial succession. These initiatives arose in response to the frequent disruptions that had historically affected the election of the Holy Roman Emperor, ultimately resulting in changes that transformed the very essence of the empire. A significant milestone of these reforms was the Golden Bull of 1356, which established formal procedures for electing the emperor. From that point forward, the emperor would be chosen by 7 electors: 4 secular electors, the King of Bohemia, the Count Palatine of the Rhine, the Duke of Saxony, and the Margrave of Brandenburg, and 3 spiritual electors, the Archbishops of Mainz, Trier, and Cologne. The political landscape of the empire remained extremely unstable throughout the Middle Ages, despite various attempts to stabilize it. Without a strong central authority, rival dukes often engaged in warfare, leading to chaos in the rural areas. Even after the papacy was restored to Rome and the Papal Schism of 1378 to 1417, an internal conflict within the Western Church regarding the legitimate pope was settled at the Council of Constance. The dream of a unified Christendom, a Corpus Christianum under the leadership of both pope and emperor, had largely diminished by the 15th century. However, with the ascension of Frederick III of the House of Habsburg as Holy Roman Emperor in 1452, serious efforts to reform the empire and its institutions were set in motion. Frederick III's reign was marked by a series of unproductive military campaigns, showing little interest in implementing imperial reforms. In contrast, his son and successor, Maximilian I, took a more proactive approach. He convened an assembly of electors and influential dukes to explore possible reforms. In 1495, Maximilian gathered with German nobles at the Diet of Worms, a significant assembly of the Holy Roman Empire held in the small town of Worms, along the Rhine River in present-day Germany. He sought their military and financial backing for his conflicts against the French and the Ottoman Turks, offering various concessions in return. One of the most significant reforms was the founding of an imperial high court designed to resolve conflicts within the empire. In response to this, Maximilian established a competing court, the Aulic Court, in 1497, to diminish the power of the High Court. Another major reform involved the formation of 6 imperial circles, which served as regional bodies for managing the empire's affairs. These circles were officially established in 1512, coinciding with the year the empire adopted the title of the Holy Roman Empire of the German nation, possibly indicating the rise of a distinct German identity. The Diet of Worms ultimately succeeded in establishing a lasting peace aimed at halting the ongoing cycle of conflicts among the German nobility. Although Maximilian seemed hesitant to embrace several of these reforms, the actions taken in 1495 effectively forged a stable agreement between the emperor and the estates. This compromise persisted, though it underwent significant changes, until the empire's dissolution in the 19th century. As the influence of the Holy Roman Empire diminished, Germany continued to exist as a mosaic of principalities, independent cities, and religious territories. The early 1500s saw the Renaissance's cultural and intellectual revival take root in German regions, leading to notable progress in art, science, and humanistic thought. Yet, it was Martin Luther's 95 Theses unveiled in 1517 that sparked the Protestant Reformation. It was a pivotal religious movement that challenged the Catholic Church's supremacy and redefined the spiritual and political dynamics of Europe. This religious turmoil, alongside the advent of printing technology, the emergence of literature in local languages, and the rise of commercial power, all affected Germany in significant ways. This laid the groundwork for extensive changes in governance, education, and social structures throughout the continent, ultimately setting the stage for the modern age in Germany and beyond.